our voice through our representatives. To me, that's very dangerous. To me, that's something we can't ignore. It really is a classical conflict between, it's archetypal, the conflict that we're engaged right now. Whether you're a religious person or not, I think we all understand that the vices and the evils that manifest in men, particularly those with vast amounts of power and influence, these build up over time, and the rest of us, if we don't acknowledge this danger, if we don't stand up and speak out against it, we consent by silence to it. I don't want to remain silent anymore. I'm willing to lead the charge in our local Senate, do whatever I can do, propose whatever I can to try to restore some sovereignty to our state so that we can at least shield ourselves from some of these sweeping movements in the federal government. I'm really in admiration of what Virginia and Wyoming have been doing. Virginia made a motion in their state legislature to nullify the NDAA. I think that's an absolute example for the rest of us to follow. It's a perfect example for the rest of us to follow. Wyoming also had some plans, although the bill didn't manage to pass, but they wanted to prepare their state for economic collapse. They wanted to basically allow their citizens to build up an alternate economy. They wanted to have cross-border alliances with other states so that they could look out for each other's mutual benefit, possibly. All things that I think we call conspiratorial now, but may prove to be a prudent decision in the long run. Now, do we need to go to those extremes? Not necessarily, but I think we do need to do things to settle our own state budget. Right now, in our Kansas Constitution, we have a balanced budget amendment, which is great and I approve of, and I think it is it's a good statement to make. It's a good rule to have included. But it doesn't mean very much when we balance our state budget by taking funds from the federal government. So really, we're not balancing our state budget, we're borrowing. The federal government does take money from our citizens, yes, but I've heard that for approximately every dollar that Kansas gives to the federal government, we receive back $1.12. So obviously, we're getting more than we give out, or we're taking in more than we give to them. We're also relying on about $120 million of appropriations from Congress in order to fund our Medicaid program. Now, if the federal government and the current monetary system does fail, then how are we going to come up with that money? How are we going to come up with those resources to take care of our seniors here in our state? If we don't start looking at our own state budget, and if we don't find a way to live within our own means locally, then it's only natural that the national government can't live within its means. It's reflective of the mood of the people. Which leads me to my platform. The three items that we've included in our platform right now are taxation, education, and citizens' rights. And these all will affect the budget of our state, which is what I'm going to talk to you about as I explain each one. First of all, taxation, well, that's only natural. However much money you give up to your government, that takes away from your funds, it takes away from your buying power and your resources, and it allows them to allocate it however they choose. And if you don't keep close tabs on them, if you don't monitor what they're doing, then they might spend it wastefully, they might spend it wisely and invest in things on your behalf. But so far right now, we've realized that we do have to closely monitor and be vocal about all of our government's expenditures to make sure that they're spent wisely and for our benefit. I think I want to cut out the middleman a little bit if I can. I'd like to just allow the citizens to keep more of their money. That way, if you need to plan for your own retirement, if you need money for whatever endeavors you're undertaking, you'll have more of your own money that you earned to use as you see fit. Some people will make rash decisions, of course, that happens, that's just part of life. But I think that the majority of people, if they understand that they do have a responsibility for themselves and that they aren't relying on the government to take their money and then somehow redistribute it to them later, if they understand that they are directly responsible, then I think they'll take responsibility. And I think that that will improve the mood of the whole country, of the whole society. So I want to lower the state income tax here in Kansas and eventually eliminate the state income tax in Kansas. That bothers some people because they, and rightly so, acknowledge that we have budgetary problems, and they think that if we don't raise taxes, we'll never solve these budgetary problems. But I tell you right now, if we do raise taxes, we will still have a budget crisis. If we don't immediately and directly address spending habits and our necessities as a society and our priorities, then one way or another that money is going to get spent wastefully if we don't monitor it and if we don't take responsibility for it. I say just make the process simpler. Let the people decide how to spend their money. Your money is best spent by you. That's our campaign slogan. I believe in that. I believe that money represents your property, and I believe in property rights. I think the 16th Amendment does nothing to legitimize the government taking your property, which is your wealth and your money. That's my one discrepancy with the Constitution. Well, maybe among a few. But I think that if we follow the core principles of the 10 amendments, which are the Bill of Rights, then as a society will function just fine on a concept called people's law, which I read from Mrs. Kendra Willard's book that she let me borrow. Very good book, Leon Skousen, very scholarly writer. I would recommend it, The 5,000-Year Leap. He discusses the concept of people's law as our founding fathers saw it, and I think that if we can make the distinction between people's law and governmental law, we'll be a much healthier society. It'll also make things a lot simpler for people that want to be our elected representatives, as I do. Some people mentioned to us last night when we announced our candidacy, they said that, are you ready to dance the dance as the senators do, right? Are you ready to hit the ground running and be able to keep up with all of the seasoned veterans of the Senate? All the people who did get a lawyer's education, who have been lawyers practicing for a long time, as Mr. Himmler has. Well, true, I'm not a lawyer. True, I have no formal education in the law. But when I look back to history, I ask myself how many of our founding fathers were lawyers. Thomas Jefferson passed the bar, and Alexander Hamilton was a practicing lawyer. George Washington, though, no, he was a plantation owner. And James Madison, the father of the Constitution, as we call him, he was a plantation owner also. Sam Adams was a businessman and apparently not a very successful one. Although he did leave us some pretty fine lager, right? So that's his legacy. So, yes, I'm not a lawyer, but I understand the concept of people's rights. The Constitution, this document, which was written overwhelmingly not by lawyers, and to be fair, this includes the Declaration of Independence and a foreword by Dr. Paul, because knowing me, I have to have the Dr. Paul Constitution. But this is a very thin, concise book, as we can see, right? This